depending on my mood, on my attitude. Sometimes I wanna roll, but stay at home. Walking contradiction, got
Hey
some
everybody,
factual and
good
fiction.
morning, good afternoon, good evening, or depending on whatever time it might be, wherever you are joining us from in the world today. My name is Meg Alexander. I am, as always, honored and excited to get to host another Power to Fly Chat and Learn virtual event. Quick visual descriptor for anybody that needs it. My name is Meg Alexander. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. I'm a 38-year-old white woman. I have pink and purple hair, black glasses, and a like cream sweatshirt on today. Super excited to be joining all of you and cannot wait to dive into today's topic. We're going to be discussing emerging tech trends and skill gaps with Veracode, exploring the rise of AI, machine learning, and data science in decision making. Now, I'm very excited to introduce you to our speaker. But before I do so, I do just want to real quick throw our code of conduct up here on the screen for us. It looks like a big scary wall of text, but basically what it boils down to is just don't be a jerk, okay? Operate from a place of kindness and respect, and it's pretty hard to go wrong from there. Whether you consider yourself part of a minority demographic or not, everybody is welcome here, okay? Long as y'all play nice. Especially since we're discussing AI today, I also want to highlight the fact that any content shared during a Power to Fly event is for informational purposes only, does not constitute legal advice, and if you need specific legal guidance, we encourage you to consult a qualified attorney. So just, there's my little blurb that we got to say to get out of the way. Now, and whether today is your first Power to Fly event or your 50th, I'm incredibly excited to see you today. And if today is your first, then hi, welcome. We're so happy to meet you. Now, the love is no less real for my frequent flyers. Thank you all so, so much for coming on today, joining us, and sharing your smiling, maskless faces with us safely. Now, whether you are here for your first time, your 50th, you should know that Power to Fly events are all about participation. So we want to encourage you to do that in as many ways as you'd like. You're always welcome to turn your cameras on if you'd like, to share your smiling, maskless faces with us safely. But there is no need to look Instagram perfect, y'all. Just because I got real fancy and pulled out, the dry shampoo today so that we could wear our hair down for the fourth day in a row, does not mean that you cannot join us with your messy buns, your bathroom robes, whatever it is. We don't care, y'all. We just want to meet you where you are. Now, if you do want to participate, but you don't want to do so in the chat, that is totally, or sorry, if you don't want to do so with your camera, that's fine. I very much encourage y'all to check out the chat, and encourage y'all to, kind of network and chit chat with one another. I do just want to highlight as we do that, that obviously we want you to adhere to the code of conduct, just, play nice with everybody. And keep in mind that this is a public forum. So welcome and thank you so much for joining us. Just make sure that we are practicing good digital hygiene. You're welcome to share your LinkedIn, all that kind of stuff if you want to. Just make sure that you're cool with anything that you share throwing up or showing up on the front page of Google search bar tomorrow. So all right. Now, as we go through today's event, the other thing that's exciting is that we're recording. We're recording as well as live streaming. Hi, YouTube. And what that means for all of you is that you don't have to take notes. You get to sit back, relax, enjoy the conversation that I'm about to have with Sarah, and not worry if you missed a resource that was listed, or anything at all. So don't worry about that. What's going to happen is in about 4 to 5 business days, we're going to email everybody with a link to where you can watch this recording when it goes live on powertofly.com. But if you want to share some info that you learned today faster than that, you can always head over to our YouTube channel. We have a bunch of our kind of greatest hits are stored in there, and this video usually makes it to our YouTube channel by end of business today. So, like I said, enjoy today's conversations. Don't worry about taking notes because we'll send you reminders on everything. And we are super, super, super excited to see y'all and have y'all participate today. Now, before I introduce you to our speaker, she is here today on behalf of Veracode. Now, Veracode is a global leader in application risk management in the AI era. It's powered by trillions of lines of code scans and a proprietary AI-generated remediation engine. The Veracode platform is trusted by organizations worldwide to build and maintain secure software from code creation to cloud development. Now, Sarah Law is joining us today as the VP for Product Business Operations at Veracode. Sarah is a highly accomplished digital transformation leader and a passionate advocate for empowering individuals to thrive in the tech industry. Sarah's day job is to rethink traditional workflows and architect solutions that help companies to adopt new technologies and build cultures that embrace change and innovation. Sarah currently leads product business operations for Veracode, and we're incredibly excited to welcome her today. Sarah, what else would you like our audience members to know about you before we dive into questions?
Hi, I'm Sarah. I am a mother of three. I live just outside of Boston. I've been here for more than a decade and working at Veracode for about the last 5 years.
Very, very cool. I love to hear it. Oh, I just realized I didn't do a call out. I'm coming to you from Toledo, Ohio. This is the land that belonged to the Fox, Kickapoo, and Potawatomi tribes in my area. So please feel free, y'all. Let us know where you're joining us from, and if you know whose land you're on. Absolutely happy to have y'all join us. And thank you, Cheyenne, for joining us from New York City. I saw you chime in, and Ria as well, joining us from Toledo too. Thanks, Ria. Martine's in New York City on Lenape land. Thank you. And Jobrin. Hi, Jobrin. Good to see you back. Jobrin is from the land of the Haldimand tract. So we absolutely love seeing all of that represented. Thank you. All right. So, Sarah, as we dive into questions today, I was really excited to get to speak with you and kind of get to know you a little bit. And one of the things that was a huge question on everybody's mind to start with was kind of like when we're talking about AI, let's level set. Like, what are we talking about specifically? And what do you think AI is doing to the industry landscapes? Like, let's talk about the kind of effect large scale that you're seeing.
Okay, big question. So AI is everywhere. I mean, AI right now is, I like to think of it as a fundamental rewiring of how companies and maybe even industries are operating today. And when I say that, I'm thinking about the shift that has happened even in the last couple of years, where a couple of years ago, we were seeing that AI was really a tool or a set of tools. And those tools were targeting specific activities that were helping people be more efficient, right? Like it was all about productivity. How do we do more with less or do something faster so that we could get to market faster or spend less money or just be more timely in handoffs and things like that. And when I think about that, I think about, okay, that's human AI collaboration tools like co-pilots for software developers, or maybe co-pilots for customer support or chatbots or things like that. And there was a lot of wide scale adoption of that in the last couple of years. But today, it's not exactly like that anymore. Like AI has become something much bigger, right? Today, AI isn't just a tool. It's starting to be this new introduction of human augmented decision-making capability. So AI is showing up in everything that we do today for lots of different people, not just software engineers or technical audiences, but it's starting to show up in the tools that we've always used. And then also in really highly personalized ways. Sometimes we don't even know that it's AI enabled or generated, but it's giving us information where we work at the point in time where we are working with those systems and tools in real time. And that just wasn't something that was practical before. Like that hyper personalization at scale was not a thing. And now it's a thing. And it is really reshaping how we do our work every day. And that is redefining what's possible, right? Not just optimizing what we used to do, right? And so that is reshaping how we create and how we compete and how we deliver value to our customers every single day. And that is just a paradigm shift and maybe like a bold statement, okay? But I think it's true. We see it every day in cybersecurity. Go ahead, sorry.
No, no, go right ahead. The people came to hear you talk, not me.
I thought you wanted to say something.
No, no, I mean, I think you're right that when we first started talking about AI, that was one of the big things that struck me is that what I heard ad nauseum from a lot of the experts was that AI isn't a what, it's a how. So it wasn't necessarily like, you know, what are we going to do? We need to like build a bridge and you expect AI to build a bridge. No, well, you need to build a bridge. We expect AI to do a bunch of the like kind of like like boots on the ground calculations, and like a lot of the groundwork like should be kind of done by AI or handled by AI. So I think you're right. As we've seen this progression, I feel like we've stopped to a little extent. We've seen people kind of stop worrying about like, oh, it's going to take my job. And it's like, no, it's not going to take your job. It's going to change your job. It's going to make your job a little, if not necessarily more difficult, whatever. It's just going to change how you're doing your work. It's like before the computer came in. Well, what am I going to do? Like use the computer? Yes, you're just going to use the computer. Do you feel like you have a lot of these same kind of conversations?
I do. And I think that I hear these conversations a lot. And I think that some of that is just change adoption, concern, the fact that learning new things means we have to adapt, we have to learn new things, which sometimes is uncomfortable, especially if we're busy or worried about the kids or getting the dog to the vet or whatever we're worried about on a daily basis. This is just one more thing on top of the pile. And it's happening really quickly. Like there's not like a ton of adjustment time. And I think that that is the thing that's shaping a lot of the conversations around AI right now, is just how quickly it's all happened and how much more is going to change. And what does that mean for my day job tomorrow?
Which is like one of those things where like change is one of the only constants in life, right? You
Yes.
know it's going to keep changing. And these changes keep coming faster and faster. So you'd think at some point we would get used to the like sort of inertia whiplash of it all.
Yep.
But you're right. Like it is, these changes are just going to keep happening. And if you're not getting on board with this, then what else are you not going to understand as we keep growing?
I think that it's definitely a level set. Once you get past the idea that like life as we know it is over and we can just kind of get on with, okay, so what do we do about it? Like that helps us all kind of shift forward and figure out, what does this really mean for me? And we all want to get better. And to get better, we have to change, right?
Oh yeah, of course. Well, and I was listening to something on NPR the other day where they were talking about how the that AI and like the limitless, seemingly limitless nature of, AI's ability to get smarter, be better, do these things better is entirely, it is limited. It's limited by the data that we feed it. So I think it is really interesting to look at it from this perspective of like, no, that's not going to replace you. What we're talking about is effectively very advanced and fast logic gates. So that can't replace you because the machine can't create those gates for itself. So I very much appreciate, kind of a little bit of a level set here, as well as a like, no, 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 just because it's changing fast does not mean we have to be afraid, and doesn't mean we have to like respond from a place of fear that then turns into anger and, it's coming for my job. So I appreciate this.
AI is a co-pilot, right? It's not the autopilot. Like it's still really important that human judgment is driving and critical thinking is happening, and that we are challenging the AI in ways to make sure we're still making great decisions with our organic intelligence. I call that my OI, right? Like it's my organic intelligence that I apply to the AI, because that's what makes the AI real, right? So
If that's your oi, then I want AI to just be pronounced hey, like we must be the money like all the time. Like that's what I want.
we can
Ooh,
try.
Jobrin's actually got some good questions in here. Will there be AI 6G algorithms in the present and future? I mean, this is something that, we are kind of spitballing. Nobody knows, but the speed, if people want the speeds to get faster, they want processing power, they want, they don't just want to type in and it like, and have it, hey, I like generate them an image 46 hours later. They want to type it in and have it, within a couple minutes. So I think it is obviously the speed and processing will keep going up. Is there anything that you think improvement wise or we might see next when it comes to Gen AI?
Well, I think really when I think about Gen AI, or even when I just get down to processing speed, I worry a little bit about the infrastructure limits, right? So, I'm not going to bore everybody with my thoughts on what happens if Thomas More's law starts to not be true anymore, and quantum computing and where we're going to go next. But there's some real physical limitations that people are hitting right now, and some very cool computing technologies, whether that is photo computing or DNA computing or quantum computing. Like there's some really cool stuff in that space that's happening right now. And if those things really start to bear fruit, who knows where we go with that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Okay, so let's kind of pull back a little bit. Obviously, there is a ton of buzz around AI. There's not just one kind of AI, obviously, but that kind of seems to be it's very The Graduate, like, oh, plastics. We have to talk about plastics. So, one of the things that I had a hard time with was starting to adapt AI like kind of into my daily work tasks. Could you tell us some of the ways that you utilize AI and what it does for you?
Absolutely. So I think number one, like I have sort of like I have framework for everything. So like bear with me. But like number one, what am I trying to do? What is the value I'm trying to create? What is the problem I'm trying to solve? And that will define kind of like which kind of AI I'm looking for or trying to use.
Mm,
I mostly in my job spend time either in actual business tools or generating AI enabled reporting solutions and analytics and insights that support strategic decision making. Or I am spending time doing practical real world application of AI when I'm doing research for market insights or technology insights or things that are going on in the news. And mostly that's because I'm just on information overload. Like, how do I take all of these disparate, seemingly unrelated streams of information, compile them in a manner that is relevant to me, curating that content? How do I distill that into something meaningful? And then what do I do with that? Right. And then how do I build on that from there? In my day job, I spend a lot of time trying to figure out how to make sure that the people that I work with every day have systems and tools that are instrumented with AI capabilities or are going to enable us to have better AI capabilities in the future, whether that is because we're standing up teams that are actually building AI capabilities within our software that we actually create for the world, or is that something that we are generating productivity and availability and making sure that everything that we're doing is kind of supercharged with AI capability? Or is it just, hi, I just need to do something really, really quickly? And how will I get at that information? And is that good enough for the decision I'm trying to make right now? Because there's a ton of things that don't need 7 levels of verification. If I check with a couple of AI tools and a quick Google search, that's probably enough for me to decide whether I'm going to roll back a configuration change or not. Right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, that totally tracks. Yeah. Okay. A lot of people also were kind of wondering about how they can filter through a lot of the noise surrounding AI to focus on some of the most useful information. So let's talk about this like in the terms of in terms of AI as opposed to an actual query that you're giving it. How can you try and figure out, or how can you approach this so that way, as you're trying to learn more about AI, you are not kind of diving real deep into an area that you might never touch.
Yeah. So this one is a hard one because there's so much information and there's so much hype and there's so many YouTube's courses, classes, books, guides out there right now on everything AI. I would start with a, a specific thing that is meaningful to you, whether that is, I'm just going to test the waters because I want to make my garden amazing, right? Like,
Yeah.
what are the AI tools that will help me be a great gardener? I did this like a year ago, actually. Like, it was one of like the exciting things that I did with AI when I was trying to figure out new ways to use it. What are the tools that people have? What are the applications and technologies and tools? Is this really just a chat capability? And then how do you get your hands on it? And I would encourage you to get your hands on it as quickly as possible because the classes, the courses, they all give you context. There's a lot of basic and fundamental information. If you're somebody that's really writing technical solutions or exercising specific usage patterns for specific business tools, sure, take those classes and understand them, but get in them as quickly as you can because it really is a little bit like riding a bicycle. Like you have to feel how prompting works. You can
Mhm.
you can go and learn some prompt engineering best practices and scripts and things, but the magic is your creativity. It's how you use the tools at your disposal and what you learn from those tools more than give me this very prescriptive thing that I'm going to copy and paste somewhere and then hope that I get the answer that I'm looking for. You're just never going to get there, right? But the
Yeah.
beauty about AI is it's so personalizable. It is what you ask of it.
Mhm. I think that's a very good point, and it reminds me of when I was, a baby like a million years ago in high school and going to computer class because that was a thing we had, you ignorant young whippersnappers. But like that, I remember going and kind of being told or being made to understand that like the way you needed to like search things was different than when you were kind of asking questions in a library. You needed to search based on Boolean search or whatever. And so we had to learn kind of how to do these things, how to talk to the machine. And that was one of the things that struck me is that, especially as I started messing around with it and then talking to other people about it, I realized your answers and your results and stuff get more dialed in when you tell it who it's talking to. So instead of explaining, like if you are, I don't know, there was something that just kind of blew my mind in a way of like, oh, we don't relate to technology in the same way we used to. This is absolutely wild. And you're right, like it feels very like disorienting to not start with like, well, where's my search bar? I don't understand. What are my results going to look like? And it's like, no, just start it. Just push the button and see what you get.
I
All
think
right. Oh, go ahead, please.
Oh no, I just think the one cautionary tale I think that I always worry about because I'm in security, right? Is also if you're picking one thing that is your passion project, like also make sure that if it's related to work, that you understand the policies, the governance, the tools that are okay for you to use with work related things and where all of the guardrails are. Right? We don't want to inadvertently be sharing IP or distributing things that we don't want to be doing, but it's easy to avoid as long as you know.
No, absolutely. Okay. One of the questions, and actually I want to encourage y'all, we're almost at the halfway point. But if you have questions, please feel free to send them in the chat. You can also put them in the Q&A bucket. And I've got 5 questions in the Q&A bucket currently. So if y'all are on the line with us and want to drive the direction of today's conversation, please feel free, dive into that Q&A bucket. You can find it in your toolbar. And use the little thumbs up to upvote any and all questions that you are also interested in learning about. That way I can prioritize the subject matters that we're covering today to really, make the most of this time with Power to Fly and Veracode. Okay, let's talk about some of like the data science and decision making. How does data science revolutionize the decision making process across industries? What results can you get from this?
So in my mind, data science is really all about shifting from making decisions that are based on intuition more than actual information that is stored in our systems or out in the world in ways that help reduce bias, right?
Mm.
So, and bias is particularly complicated when we're talking about AI or LLMs or any number of things, right? And we can talk about that later if people are interested. But we know people have bias when they are making decisions. Some of that's recency bias. Some of it is just personal bias. Like whatever those things are, they happen, they're real, we know it. Data science helps to give us another vector for making decisions. It doesn't replace your qualitative analysis. It doesn't replace the fact that you need to talk to your customers or your users when you're making great software, right? Like you still need to do those things. But you also have other information to work with so that you can detect patterns and trends and correlations that you might otherwise have missed because they're just hidden, right? Like they're the invisible things that are happening, but you might just not have them. And AI-powered data-driven decision-making is like supercharged, right? Like information that was not able to be correlated into meaningful insights. So not just how do I get a piece of data because I scripted a report, but how do I actually get customer-based sentiment on their user experience based on different things that they have either through webhooks or telemetry or other things that you have in your systems, and that video recording or that conference call that you had with them, and having AI actually assess all of those things, aggregate that information, and then correlate that with other business intelligence data that you have so that you're able to do things like better prediction of when something is going to happen or faster response to something that might be looming, because AI can do that now, right? Like maybe you didn't spot that you had a churn risk for a customer, but your AI tool might have been able to flag it for you to look and see and have a conversation with your customer. It might have been nothing, but it might have been important. And it just allows you to have these extra tools in your tool belt when you are going out there and trying to make sure that you're doing the right things every day for your job.
Yeah. Okay. What are some of the biggest challenges that we're facing when it comes to scaling that decision making across an organization? You know, you talked about like maybe your AI would pick up on, you know, a potential like risk of churn with this client based on, you know, the parameters that you set up. But what are some of the biggest challenges if you want to try and do this across an org?
Yeah. So organizational change is always people, process, and tools, right? Like those are your big vectors, and AI is not any different when you're driving organizational change. Um, Process is probably where I start, right? Because all digital transformation starts with what's your process? Is it instrumented? Where does that data exist in what systems? And what is the format of that data? How do you aggregate that information across different systems? And then what is the business intelligence you're looking for, right? Like what are the outcomes you're driving? How good is your data hygiene? Did you structure everything as blobs and you're in 20 different systems, some of which have good APIs that can be integrated into Snowflake or wherever you're putting your data, and you're going to actually run this analysis? And then after you get past the process and the tools, then you have the people, right? And that one's hard. You have to have a culture of adaptation and continuous learning and continuous growth. And those things are sometimes things that are aspirational and challenging to live into every day, especially when things are happening really quickly. And then on top of all of that, you have AI governance, right? And there's a lot of that. And it's complicated because how do you make those kinds of decisions unless you really understand how AI works? And that's a big thing to take on, to try to understand.
No, 100%. Okay, oh, dear Lord, clicked away from my notes here. Um, how can we assess the reliability of the data and conclusions that are getting drawn from AI tools like ChatGPT? I've used it in the heat of the moment. Literally, it planned me a walking tour of Paris in like 12 minutes while I was sitting on the banks of the Seine and had like an email from a cancellation from a tour guide and thought, oh crap, what are we gonna do today? And so like it planned me a walking tour of Paris, which we changed like 6 times during the route, and it kept like rerouting me and saying, "Oh, and don't worry." And also, I included that share the extra thing you wanted macarons, and so I threw 6 other places to get them along the list. So like I had a great experience, and we were led, and I didn't get lost, and we made it back to America. So clearly, everything worked out fine. How do we assess on the fly, especially if we're asking it to, you know, to assess data?
Absolutely. So all of these tools are research capabilities, right? Like any one of these sources is like a source, right? Like when I'm using maybe like ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude or whatever it is, I am in the habit of trust but verify. So I'll run it through one, I'll run it through a second, I'll run it through a third, do a quick Google search. Okay, like good enough for what I'm doing. If I'm doing a walking tour, maybe 2 is enough. Like I believe you. I also have more tools that I trust more than others, just through frequency of use. You start to ask for sources, you ask for citations, you ask for links, you prompt in different ways. You verify your data against other sources, books, ebooks, webinars, courses, classes, internet content.
So you're saying effectively how we should all be researching anyway.
Yeah, but if you're in the moment, right? Like there's a quick way to do it, like prompt in one, prompt in the other, see what they come up with, compare and contrast, and ask some questions. Like you want to make the tools explain to you how they got to their answers. And if you're using a tool that cannot explain or cannot cite, that might not be the tool for you.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. Kind of utilizing the tools and using them enough to know what it's good for. I remember, kind of using different things like this when I was wedding planning. I'd use Google, I'd use Pinterest, I'd use, whatever, to try and kind of gather my thoughts in different ways. And so I think you're right. It does come down to like, what does this, what tool is this the best for? What does it give you the best output with?
Yep. And you can be careful when you pick your tools, right? So on the fly, you're using a trusted source, right? And there are plenty of, if you're all data oriented and you like these things, you can go see what's their transparency scores. What are their trust scores? Like in their processing, are they more confident in answers and receptive? Like there's huge amounts of testing and reviews and a bunch of these things out there in your confidence of each one of these models that are out there and which technologies have the models baked in.
Yeah.
That might be extra, but like, at least for the gardening use case, but like if it's something that you're using at work for a meaningful purpose, or you're selecting something to bake into one of your tech stacks, that becomes very important.
Like what are the stakes kind of?
Yep.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. All right, let's keep moving on. We're going to go over some kind of skills and career development. What do you think are some of the most significant skill gaps in AI and cybersecurity today?
Okay. So if you ask ChatGPT or somebody, they'll tell you things like adversarial AI defense and, AI governance things, which are all true, right? Like these are deep things where we know that we need people to be working in API first kind of worlds or in serverless, or we want to make sure that in the technologies that are driving AI to be better, faster, smarter, and we're innovating with these good technologies, we need good security, we need good governance, and there's a deficit of those skills because it's complicated, it's deep, and it's relatively new, right?
Yep.
Those things are all important. I think that some of the skills that we don't always talk about are the softer skills, right? Critical thinking. Prompt engineering is not a soft skill, but it's starting to feel a little bit like a soft skill to me, right? Like it's just a necessary thing if you're going to do those kinds of work. If you want to get into tech skills, AI enabled data analytics, very important. Python, still is like something that is real and very informative for anything for data driven kind of work that you're doing in AI. Anything where you need just basic skills as a developer to understand how to use AI in your IDE or in your source code repository. Like all of those things are really, really important that would need to kind of be understood if you just want to do your day job in those technical roles. Like I think those are going to be table stakes.
Yeah, I like that. Let's see. Oh, Naja's asking some good questions in the chat. We're going to go over this in a little bit, Naja, so sit tight with that question. Okay, this person wanted to know what certifications or training courses would you recommend for staying relevant in an AI first world? So we kind of touched on this a couple times about like how to dip your toes in, how to kind of get started. But what do you think are going to be some of the skill sets that people should go after? And do you know of any, have you used any certifications or training courses?
Yeah, so there are a lot of different certifications out there right now, and they're really widely available, right? Like there doesn't seem to be a huge barrier to entry, whether you're at very entry level trying to understand, or you want to get deep into like a cybersecurity certification workspace. So for example, you could do certified machine learning security. That's a CMSLE, I think, expert. Yeah, there's AI for cybersecurity, which is offered through MIT, I think. There's a CTIA, Certified Threat Intelligence for Analysts, that is very important in AI right now and updated for that. There's a zero trust specialist or a ZTX certification that becomes really important. And it becomes applicable to everything, right? Like, you know how to handle, govern, and secure your AI capability, which is the crux of a bunch of challenges that people have right now. There's a bunch of other business, like, sort of, you get stamps. They're not really certification programs and things when you finish courses. Coursera, Google, MIT, edX, LinkedIn Learning, O'Reilly, like, the sky's the limit on what you can explore for AI. Anything with basic data science and AI enabled tooling, I think, is a benefit. And then even in the tools that you use every day, there's like help capabilities and YouTube channels and other things that will help you in real ways to kind of get things moving along. But if you're looking for certifications explicitly, I think certifications alone are not going to get you there, right? Like, there needs to be a demonstration and practical evidence that you're using these technologies either in open source projects, or you have GitHub portfolios, or you're posting articles, or you're active in communities, going to meetups, meeting people that are actually doing this work. People want to see all of that magic happening, really, really, if you're looking for career pathing.
Well, and this leads us perfectly into another question we had, which was like, how can professionals with hands-on experience but lacking the formal credentials make themselves appear as very strong candidates? And so I always like these questions because I feel like every time we get the question from this aspect, we also get it for the same event from the other aspect of like, hey, I have all the credentials and stuff, but I don't have any hands-on experience. So like, how can I show myself off as a strong candidate? So I love this because like y'all are always asking the same questions of like, well, this is how it looks from this side of the fence. I'm like, they're in the same boat. They also feel like they're lacking. So for your, from your perspective, how would you answer this question?
I think that it's the start small, right? Like, take the classes, get the stamps on your LinkedIn, make your LinkedIn discoverable, get out in open source. If you're a technical person, get an open source project going, be a collaborator. If you're somebody that is more involved from a community perspective, and that's the time commitment you can do, right? Do that, be consistent, establish some relationships and some rapport. This is all about building credibility. It's all about building discoverability and making sure that people can see that you didn't just learn something in a classroom setting, but you applied it practically somewhere, so that they can see that you can create value out of learning. And so, that can get tricky, right? Like, I always feel like very weird when people are like, you have to be discovered. I was like, I am not a rock star. Like, I did not know that I was signing up for this, but now we must be discoverable if we want to be sort of at the head of the pack of these things. But we're not alone, right? Like, this is not something that's easy to do. But I do think that those stamps do make a difference. I think active community membership and getting people that know you and trust you, not just through word of mouth, but also to endorse your skills or give you like a reference, like, those things do matter.
Yeah. All right. We did get a question, like I said, from Naja a minute ago. Naja wants to know, Naja's specifically interested in changing careers into AI and data science. So if Naja came to you and wanted to know entry level competencies for someone, what would you give them? What's the laundry list of like, here's where you got to start?
Yeah, I think that I would definitely start, like, Google has a whole curriculum in entry level data science and doing like basic tooling. I would start with something like that. Like, they're either free or low cost, right? You can really start to get a sense of this, and they start very basic and then build up from there. I would think that you will want to learn Python very quickly. Like, a lot of data science starts there. There are some other skills and capabilities that you can pick up and learn as you go, but I think that's probably where I would just start. Like, if you want to make that pivot, you definitely need to understand, and this is not for everybody, but telling stories with data. And people say this in different ways, But the point of what you're doing is to drive business insights that are going to help people make business decisions that help create value for your customers, right? It's not just chunking through reams and reams of data and putting numbers in front of people, because that is not always helpful and is sometimes contributing to the overload and fatigue of information that people have to ingest. It's how do you create insights out of the information that you are working on? So I don't know if that was specific enough for the question,
So, yeah.
but I would start with those things.
Yeah, Naja chimed in the chat saying, I'm working on a data analytics certification on Coursera right now, so it sounds like I'm on the right path.
Yep.
No, I think that's good. And actually, you mentioned something about trying some of these free tools. CJ Walker Waite chimed in about how there's so many free tools out there, new ones coming out that offer comparable capabilities that integrate with Office 365 tools. Many tools have a limited free capability, and to use it for work, we have to scrub all work content and then pay for a subscription to get the real capability. So it's not logical to keep changing subscriptions every month or change the tools in an auto workflow. How can we determine where the value add lies? If our company does not currently subscribe or use AI, or we need to gain that real world experience for new opportunities, how do you recommend people kind of assess this?
Oh man, this one, okay. This is a framework question, right? Because every company is different and every individual's job is different and everybody's on a slightly different mission. So I would say number one, start with the business strategy that your company is driving towards, right? Like what are the things that are specific to your enterprise that people are living and breathing on their mission every day? Because that's going to drive where you start to wander, right? Like not every tool is created equally and it's not right sized for every customer and use case that is out there. It's going to be a very different story if you're servicing direct to consumer personnel and users versus you have enterprise SaaS business customers who have a very different way of working every day. And it's a very different world if you're selling ice cream cones than if you're selling threat detection in real time, across the board at your network and at the computing edge, right? Like
Slightly less call for sprinkles with the one.
yes. And I think that once you know what you're looking at, it's really wondering where the policies are and the governance around your organization. Is it just an expense thing, right? Like people are not licensing specific tools, but you're allowed to use them? Or are you really prohibited from sharing information with these tools and structures for a valid reason? Like this is where I was saying earlier, know your policies, know your governance, know your company's position. And then figure out from there where the limitations are, right? When in doubt, talk to info risk and compliance, right? Like they will help you navigate those things and what you can and can't use. And then you really need to be working with your teams so that you guys are getting the tools you need when you need them. Sometimes you have to advocate and do a proof of value, right? And say, look what you could do. Let me show you the value I can create, but it's going to cost this much money. Build the business case, test the water, use the demo licenses or the demo, whatever it is, and get that trial going. Advocate for what you think the right thing is for your business and why, and convince people that they should spend the money for it if you believe in it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this is very, very, very good advice. Thank you for that. Okay. We've got a little under 15 minutes left before we need to round us out here. So if you've got questions, please feel free to send them in. If you want to vote on some of the questions that have been asked or have yet to be asked, apologies, head on over into the Q&A field. You can see those there. And don't forget, y'all, ask early, ask often. Okay, don't let time run out. Make sure you ask your question today so we are able to get you an answer. Okay, so future of tech. Obviously, we've touched on this future idea of like what do we hope to see coming a couple times. And while none of us has a crystal ball, we can all, I very much appreciate an educated guess. What do you think the tech market looks like in 5 to 10 years if you are not an AI-based engineer?
So maybe we level set on what is an AI-based engineer, right? So when I think about that, I think, are you an engineer that is creating AI solutions, right? But I think to some extent, every engineer will be leveraging AI solutions in one way or another. That might be in your IDE, it might be in your source code repo, it might just be, you know, in some other, like your Zoom meetings where you're using the AI companion, but everybody will be using AI or already is using AI in some ways. I think that the more that people can dig in and really start to use those tools and understand how to do the work that they would do every day in a better, faster, smarter way by leveraging the tools and being open to change, you're going to be better positioned than someone that isn't. But that doesn't mean that if you're a full stack engineer today, you must become an AI engineer, right? There's a lot of code out there. Not all of that code is AI generated code, but you should be able to read it. It's still Java, right? It's still TypeScript. It's still like all the things you're familiar with, but it still needs to have that human level oversight and making sure that what we're doing makes sense and that whatever tooling that you're using is something that is being used effectively and we're not kind of taking that for granted. I think the tools will start to allow for people to start to up level into understanding more of an end-to-end use case more individually. And so when I say things like that, I mean, maybe you're engineering a specific solution for a problem. And now you have the tools at your disposal to make very quick learning decisions, increase your cognitive load because you're not really carrying it now, right? The AI is carrying a bunch of the cognitive load that you were holding before. But now you can move forward and you can be much deeper in cloud native architectures or why this is the right way to go about doing it, not just kind of chunking through specific lines of code. And that's not exactly toil, right? But it's up leveling so that you are more fully embedded in the end-to-end use case, less handoffs, more autonomy, like keeping that moving forward. I think that that's going to become increasingly real.
No, I think it's as good a guess as any, and makes a ton of sense to me for sure. Let's see here. Oh, Naja had chimed in again. With regards to finding community, open source projects, and becoming discoverable, are there any specific sites that you recommend people take a look at or places to start if you're looking for these kinds of projects?
Yeah, so I mean, you can go to, I think there's something called Data Talks Club if you're into the data science or data communities. There's also Kaggle, there's Measure Slack. I know GitHub Portfolios is like a big thing. I don't know that I've ever used it because I'm not an engineer. But those are the places, Hugging Face, right? Like anything in that kind of like open source kind of community feeling, I think starts to get after it.
Okay, I like that. I think these are good tips to start with. Okay. I feel bad asking this because we did touch on this in our previous like chats, but people are very curious about this. Do you have any strategies for effective networking, especially in the data analytics field?
Um, I think again, like this is credibility, visibility, and establishing meaningful relationships with people in the industry. And I am not an expert on networking. So I just want to say, like, in practice, I think that it's go to the meetups, spend time in the forums if you can't be in the meetups physically because time doesn't allow it or for whatever reason. But you're trying to establish yourself as a known entity with an opinion, with value. Start with the value that you're creating. Like, don't just do it because you're seeking opportunities, right? If you go out there and you show people what you can do and why you think it's important and it is something that's meaningful, the rest I think just sort of happens naturally or more naturally, and career progression and growth and discoverability happens that way. And then we already talked about LinkedIn and some of the other like publishing articles on Medium or other things,
No, I mean, I think this is all very good advice, and I always like to ask about networking because I feel like the more we talk about it, the more we normalize it. Like you said, it's not some magical, complex, like very formal relationship, right? You're making business buddies. Okay. You're making friends at the place where you spend the majority of your waking life. So, like you said, like building those real relationships, that's easy to do when you're looking at it like making buddies as opposed to trying to network or find a mentor or whatever. Like, it doesn't have to be that deep, it doesn't have to be that complex. And like you said, like we are going to be learning our entire careers. So getting comfortable with asking other people how to do stuff and that kind of thing. People love to like show you how they do things. People love to like explain their job. Okay, take it from me, y'all. I get y'all to talk about all kinds of stuff for an hour at least every week because like y'all want to talk about these things. So go out and put yourself in the situations where you would want to go to meet people, where you would want, you would know that you would be among people who are also interested in, blah, 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 whatever your special interest is. I like this. Okay, we've got about 10 minutes left. I want to save about 5 minutes of that to talk a little bit more about Veracode. Before we move on, are there any areas that we haven't covered yet? Anything that you're like, oh, I really wanted to talk about such and such subject? Anything at all that comes to mind? It's no worries if there isn't. I've got a ton of questions to keep going through.
I think that we haven't spent much time talking about kind of where AI is going next. We talked about it a little bit in the context of in 5 to 10 years, what's the world look like for a non-AI engineer? But what's it look like in general? And I think that we are very rapidly shifting into a world where there's going to be a lot more agent developed code. There's going to be a lot more platform solutions and orchestration. So if there are people in the audience that are interested in AI agentic workflows and AI agent platforms and how that orchestration works, I think that there is going to be some good opportunity for people with those skill sets, if that's an area of interest and career growth for people. Again, that doesn't mean that people will be automated out of jobs, right? But it does mean there's this very different way of building software and technologies that I think is going to happen. And TBD on what that looks like exactly. But I think that that's an area where any number of people could be kind of filling in the gaps or exploring and seeing if that's something that kind of speaks to them and is something they want to learn ongoing.
Okay, I love this. All right, let's talk about one of the things that people had a question about was governance and regulation. And obviously with the rapid integration of AI into daily life, I mean, my husband uses it for pretty much everything. Everything from like, what should my ideal schedule be for the week? Here's the things that I have to do and the fun stuff that I want to squeeze in. Even to like these macros for, what his meal planning should look like, that kind of thing. So with all of that integration, are there any approaches being taken to regulate and govern that AI use? And if so, like how are y'all keeping abreast of these changes?
Oh yeah. So this alone is like a huge area of study for us to stay on top of, and probably for most of you if you guys are developing or software or using AI. But there are formal acts, right? Like so we have the US AI executive order, and in EU there's the EU AI Act. We have the NIST AI framework, and that one is more like guidelines, but really important. And then everything to do with regulatory standards that people are more familiar with, whether that's SOC 2, FedRAMP, StateRAMP, HIPAA, like anything that you have as a governing structure have all had to be updated and adjusted and continuously are evolving based on the fact that AI exists now and that people use it. And all of that really needs to be understood. And AI governance is like trying to find the right balance right now between the speed of innovation, because nobody wants to stifle all of the cool energy and excitement around AI and the technology advancement that's happening. But they also want governance to mostly just be making sure that we're all still safe at the end of the day, and that individual people are not being exploited, or that people's private information is not being violated in any way. And so a lot of those guidelines or regulatory bodies are really out there just making sure that we're doing baseline protections for people. And each one of them, like if you look at them, has sort of a different tenor about how they go about it. And again, it's because I think people are getting after how do we stay innovative and not stifle what we could be doing, but also just make sure that everything is secure and everybody feels good about it and everybody feels like it's and is actually okay, right? Like you're not going to end up with a deep fake tomorrow because somebody got after your person, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that's very, very I think it's funny, but it's also incredibly true. I think that is a great concern for a lot of
Yeah.
people. So I
Yeah.
love this. I love that we're addressing this. Okay, so I have one more question that we'll save for a couple minutes here because I want to know your top tip for someone who's interviewing with Veracode. But before we do that, I just want to highlight for y'all the Veracode company page. So let me share this here. There we go. So I want to share the company page with y'all. Ria, if you want to throw the link into the chat, that would be awesome. One of the things that I like to highlight towards the end of these events is some of the things that you can find on this company page and some of the ways that it can help you in your job search and some of the ways that Power to Fly can take some of the weight off of you. So this is Veracode's company page on powertofly.com. It looks like what you're seeing here. I'm not signed in, but I'm not going to try that because new computer passwords aren't saved. We'll deal with that later. But what I want to draw your attention to here is a couple different things. So the big thing is this big pink button there that says follow, okay? Tapping that follow button is going to do some great things for you, but effectively what it does is it allows Power to Fly to tell the Veracode team that you are interested in working with them. So this is a great option if there's not a role right now that you're like dying to apply for. The other thing it does is it will allow Power to Fly to keep you updated when Veracode posts new roles or when they've got upcoming events. So if you are interested in Veracode, either actively job seeking or not, tapping that follow button is a very, very good idea. And it also means that way, when you do come back to Power to Fly, you are curious months down the line about what might be out there opportunity-wise for you. You already have a short list of companies that you know really walk the walk and talk the talk when it comes to inclusion issues. So I very much encourage y'all to check out this page. Now, from here, some of the things that can help you out. The events tab obviously has today our event with Veracode, but it's also got some past events that you can look at. So events where you can look at some upskilling for your career options, as well as managing the gap and bridging the gap between marketing and sales. So there's been some good events there. You can check the About section to learn more about Veracode, who they are, what they do. Company Insights is also kind of fun because it rounds up some of the biggest stuff. But hold on here. If you go into Company Insights, you can also see some of the Veracode videos that are up and have been posted, as well as some blog posts that they've done. So this is a really good resource if you are looking to do some, informational research on your companies. It's a really good place to go and get it. Now, the other thing that I want to highlight about this page is the jobs tab. So that's the big one. Everybody always wants to see the jobs tab. Currently, Veracode has 9 jobs listed with us. Obviously, there will probably be more, but this is what we've got as of right now. I very much recommend that you job hunt and apply from powertofly.com. It's not a requirement. Just make sure that however you apply, you are filling in all of the boxes, crossing all of your T's, dotting all your I's, to make sure that your application has been completely submitted so it can be processed as well as possible. All right, Sarah, before we leave today, what is your tip for someone who's interviewing? If anybody is interested and hopeful that they're going to go into an interview with Veracode, what should they know?
We care the most about how you are going to help us help our customers. What's the value you can help us create? And are you really focused on our end users and our markets and helping us secure the world's software?
I like this. This is good. Okay. Sarah, I want to say a big thank you to you for all the time you took, not just today, but all of the prep work and everything. Very, very thankful to have gotten to meet you and learn from you this morning. And I very much hope we'll get to do this again soon.
Thank you so much for having me. This was fun.
Absolutely. All right, y'all, to all of our attendees, thank you so much for coming today. I love that you come to these events, not just because obviously, I have a job because you come to these events, but I love that you come to these events because you just took 60 minutes out of your day to do something positive for yourself and your career. That is not easy. It is not generally rewarded as you get to be older and, geriatric like me. So whether you are a little treat person or not, listen to Meg, give yourself, the pat on the back, gold star, cookie, Starbucks drink, whatever is your, your treat in the hellscape that can be adulting sometimes. So I hope that y'all listen to me, reward yourselves for that. And whether today was your first Power to Fly event or your 50th, I sincerely hope it will not be the last. Go out and have the day you voted for, and we will see you back here sooner rather than later. Bye, everybody.